Hello beauties, it's me, your girl Tequila, and welcome to Making You Pretty. And today's tutorial, I'm going to show you girls how to install a lace closure. Welcome back beauties, let's get this thing going. What I have already previously done was did the breakdown. What is best to do is wherever that you decide that you want to position your closure as far as your parting, that will determine how you will actually do your breakdown. But what she's going to wear is the center part. So what I did was I did a braid. Well, I parted her hair down the middle first, and then I did two small braids around the perimeter of her head, and I continued the braid patterns just going in the downward motion just like this. The tools that we're going to use today is a hairnet, a pair of scissors, cotton thread. We're going to use nylon thread. I actually prefer for you guys to use nylon thread, especially around the perimeter of the head. This right here is the dopest thing it is out there to use as far as sewing down your lace closures. These nylon threads comes in clear, which is what I'm using. They have black, they have brown, they have blonde colors, and all of those things actually can be purchased on my website at glamtrichairextensions.com. What else? We cannot forget our needle. The first thing that we're going to install is our weaving cap. I prefer using weaving caps over the square necks because these install much easier than trying to piece together those squares. So we're going to put this on. Make sure that it fits snug around the head. And what I like about these caps in particular is these have the adjustable bands in the back of them, so you can actually tighten them around your customer's head just to ensure that it's a great snug. What I'm using first is the cotton thread. We're going to start sewing this on about 1.5 inches away from the parting. And you want to sew this completely around her entire head. And I know you guys are probably wondering why she has a little peak of hair sticking out on her hairline. Well, that was purposely left out because I'm going to, once I install the closure, that little peak of hair is going to camouflage the stitching around that area, so it will look a lot natural. A lot more natural, actually. Now that we have stitched our wig cap down, what we're going to now do from here is cut this excess lace out in the crown of her head so you don't see it through the cap once you sew your closure on top. And now we're going to proceed to stitch this part that we just cut off down so the cap doesn't move. If you guys have any excess lace from the cap sticking out, just go ahead and gently just cut that off, but just be careful so you don't cut and unravel the thread from around the hairline. What we're now going to do is proceed to install our lace closure. What we have right here is a Brazilian lace closure lace is a dark brown, which is going to match our model that is sitting in the chair. What I have previously done with our lace closure is I wet it down with some water and went on ahead and did my parting in it, so it'll make it a lot easier to align with the parting that's already in her head. So what I'm going to do is line this up and make sure that it is centered, which is about here. Okay, now that we have aligned our lace closure, we're going to now start stitching. As you can see right here, we're going to actually start stitching our closure down about right here. Make sure that you turn your needle up, because that way when you actually go to stick in your needle, it's going to bring the knot underneath the braid and not on top. And start the stitching as close to the edge of your closure as you can, so you don't have any excess of the lace hanging from the hairline. And if you're doing a stitching where you start over instead of under, what that actually do is place threading underneath the braid so you don't see the thread on top of the lace. Once you've gotten to the end of your lace closure, then you're just going to tie it off. And then usually what I do is pull it back, and sometimes you grab some of the baby hair, so I just usually just take my needle and just pull any excess hair out from the closure that I've actually sewn down in the process of me sewing down the closure. But today I use the nylon clear thread just so to make it easier to see. But normally I would use the dark brown nylon just so you don't see the thread once you've sewn down the closure. So now that we've gotten this side done, we're going to go over to the other side. I have stitched the one side of the closure down, so we're now going to stitch the other side. But the trick is to get the lace closure flat is we do not stitch this area here. What we're going to do is pull this, don't pull it too tight, but just stretch the lace just a little bit and start stitching from here on down. And we're going to do this exact same way that we did it on the other side. And the trick behind this also is to not stitch it too tight, because if you do that, then it's going to make the skin look like it's too tight, and it looks kind of weird, especially if your client is not leaving any of her baby hair out around the hairline. But you don't want it to look like there's a weave on top of their head. Okay, as you can see, now the front is completely stitched down. So now what we're going to do is go to the back of the head and proceed to stitch the rest of the closing down. I do not like to start sewing my closures from here back, and the reason being is that sometimes people have a tendency to not align it evenly. So what I tell people to do is get the flap and find the middle here and align it back here. And this will ensure that it's going to lay completely flat all the way around here and all the way around here. So what I'll do is once I find my spot, I take my now cotton thread and make one stitch. And that's just to secure the closure down. Then I re-knot it. Go back to now to the front of the closure and start sewing this down. Okay, once you've done this side, then you're going to go around to the other side, and we're going to then stitch that down. Okay, look like we got her all on. Okay, beauties, now we're all done. So, as you can see, she is completely sewn down. She is completely flat. So now what I'm going to do is show you guys how to make a natural parting in your lace closure. Like I said before, what I usually tell people to do is, like I said before, is to wet your closure down, part it exactly where you want it to go. And this is a perfect way of creating your 3-part closures, which is like one of the new kind of closures that's out on the market now. What I'm about to show you is the exact way that you would do a 3-way closure. But with that, well, let me go to the 3-way closure, then I'll go back to this. When you're creating your 3-way closures, what I always tell people to do is do your markings. Part it exactly where you would want to part your hair. Wet it, split it down the middle, and then start to pluck out that area. So now let's go back to what I'm about to do with this. Like I said before, split it down the middle, mold it down, let it dry, create your part. Now what we're going to do now is get the tweezers. What I tell people to do is to make sure that you are perfectly aligned straight, because once you pluck the hairs out, the hairs are plucked out. So let's get started. What I'm going to do is start at the edge and just start gently plucking the hair out. You don't want to go too wide, simply because you don't want your parting to be extremely wide. So I always tell people just to go one at a time, completely down the center. And it's good to use your hands just to kind of keep it spread apart, just so the hair don't kind of fall back as you're plucking out the center. But if you don't have a live person to do this on, and I'm just speaking for the people who are going to be installing their own closures, then if you can get like a mannequin head and place this on a mannequin head and secure it down with wig pins just to keep the closure from moving around, and then you want it to do exactly the way that I'm doing. And I'm not going to pluck this all the way back, because I'm going to be the person that's going to wear this closure, and I don't like a deep parting. So I'm going to stop my plucking about maybe here. So voila, very easy and simple. Now let's get a little glaze edge, put on our edges just to kind of smoothen it back. Hey beauties, we're back, and here's our final reveal. Unfortunately, she doesn't have a complete hairdo, because that wasn't the purpose of the tutorial today. It was only to show you girls how to install the closure and to show you guys how to do a natural parting in the closure. So you girls are going to have to stay tuned for that. But as you can see, our closure has been installed. And as you can see, there is a natural parting in that. It's completely flat. And, you know, sometimes what you can do if you wanted to, you know, have a little more seamless look to it, you can also get some makeup concealer that matches your actual skin tone, and you can conceal the parting and bring it all the way out to the edge right here, so it'll completely match you all the way through. But I don't have my concealer today to show you guys that, so I'm sorry. But I hope my tutorial has been very helpful to you stylists and you hairstyling gurus, and I want you girls to have a happy hair day. Come and blog with me at www.tressaholic.com. All of our hair extensions and closures and tools that we use in all of our videos can be purchased from www.glamtroushairextensions.com.